Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Professor Bauer. Welcome to ICT 4010 Enterprise Architecture. This is the summer term of year 2021. I want to welcome you. Glad to have you in the class. I've done this will be, I think, my fourth class teaching EA 4010, and I've been an enterprise architect, and I've also been a CIO. So I've been on either side of the ecosystem, and so I know when it works, it's very, very good, and when it doesn't work, it's absolutely terrible. So we're going to introduce the class, and this will be typical in that respect if you had a class at DU. But I also want to talk about enterprise architecture. If you're a bit skittish and you think, oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into? This is over my head. I remember taking a statistics class at the Wharton School of Business in my graduate days, and I was terrified of statistics. So I went up to the professor at the beginning of the class and said, I'm really scared. He said, here's the book to buy. And it was called Statistics for the Terrified. And so stealing that title, I'm going to present just a few slides. It won't be too terribly long, no more than 10 minutes at the very most, on what enterprise architecture is for those who may be a bit skittish here. I'm going to try to talk in people terms and not in tech terms, because I think that's probably one of the biggest problems in the whole practice. So let's go ahead and get started. You can find out about me and how great I am. Actually, I love my dogs. It's probably the only thing you'll remember. In the welcome area, I've made mistakes in a lot of different companies. Maybe that's a good way to summarize my career to date. I'm going to mention some resources if you're, some of you are taking this just to get a credit or maybe to learn a little bit. Some of you are saying, this may be something I want to chase. And if you're thinking about that, I want to recommend an additional resource that may be worth the investment. We'll talk briefly about the syllabus. The most important thing during the summertime is it passes fast. And if you don't pay attention, it'll be gone, and you'll be slugging out the final week as I finish this weekend grading the ICT 4010 final assignment. So make introductions to yourself, talk about who you are, what you do, what you're looking to get out of the class, and then we'll talk about this little brief primer. People have said it's kind of helped them to understand, because it's talking above the charts and diagrams, which I hope we can do. Sometimes that stuff is just it's just stuff to distract people and make you look like you know what you're talking about. And sometimes it's helpful, but in that way. But most of the time, it's just wasting people's time. So let's cut and get down to it in this opportunity. All right, if you're into EA or you think you might, you can't beat Sev Katusev's. It's an Australian-Russian book called The Practice of Enterprise Architecture. Get it, the second edition. The first edition was great, but he's got a new second edition. It is uncomplicated, but technically thorough. Cloud, multi-org, complex IT architectures, but a very great way of taking complex things and making them clear. Simplexity is the term I've heard, and it is absolutely necessary in this domain. So he's very disrespectful of slick consulting companies. So if you work for a slick consulting company and you guys do some of this jive, I hope you're embarrassed. I hope you go to church and confess your sins or something, whatever. But if you're on the IT side of things or the business side of things for the company, he's really your hero. So anyway, I'm going to actually send out the one of the last chapters that talks about the history of the EA practice from the 1950s, mainly in America. I think this will be our textbook coming in the fall, and I'd hate for you to miss this. It's up to date and really a good text. I make no money from this recommendation. Okay. All right. You got a syllabus. It has all the key areas. This slide is from last spring, but it's the same course. Information about me, information about the weekly sequence, etc. If you're new to DU and you need someone to walk you through it, you just take your time and see that each week has modules, and those modules have assignments. And you follow that after doing the readings and consulting. You also have a class participation grade that you earn by making informative, pithy, and to-the-point comments along the way. So keep that in mind. All right, let us briefly look at enterprise architecture for the terrified. Okay, I want to demystify this. I want you to, if you can watch this on your sofa, you can, loosen your seatbelt, relax, take a deep breath. I think everyone's going to be fine here. Okay. All right. Enterprise architecture is the history of trying to fix something that has been a real problem. How do you create a framework that reflects how modern enterprises, businesses, do their IT? And there are a bunch of different frameworks. The most recently is called TOGAF. You're going to learn about TOGAF as we go. It sounds like some embarrassing foot disease. You don't want to go to the beach because you got to show your TOGAF off. But actually, it's not, and we'll talk about it. But the challenge is to get IT working for the business. Sometimes it feels the other way around. We got to do all these crazy things because this is the only way IT can do it. There was a recent Forbes magazine, I guess it was like January, that 57% of all IT projects fail. That is, if you had a record and you said 57% of what I do is failure, I'm not sure you would stay in your job that long. But somehow we have got to the point where a lot of businesses live with that kind of failure rate. And so I'm going to send you, like I said, a summary of this history, but we got to do better. As someone said, IT is too important for the business to be left in the hands of IT. So if you never, take a senior IT job or become an enterprise architect, I want you to be a skilled stakeholder watching this process and seeing if the planning in your organization is really the way it should be. All right, let's keep going here. All right, I just want to show you got three basic aspects in IT and information systems. You got people. They got to be trained. You got to deal with their politics. You got to, money, all these things. So people, absolutely. Process. Are you going to change the way you do things because you have new IT systems? That's probably the key thing. It's probably the pain point that most people feel to get them to pay the money to move to a new process. And then you've got tech. New IT systems being available to users, securing them, maintaining them, tech support, monitoring, etc. People, process, technology. Any plan that your company has should be reducible to these three simple things. No gibberish, no, Marvy land, no jive marketing charts and all this kind of stuff, okay? I am not a big fan of marketing blather and IT blather either. So, you've got actors, people who represent the boundaries of different decision makers in the organization. Most of the time, the boundaries keep people from really communicating. And so you've got business executives and IT executives. That's your C-level folks, your VPs and CTOs, CIOs, network heads, etc. Then you've got the business unit managers, people who keep the trains running, VP of sales, VP of, et cetera, HR, et cetera. And then you have their counterparts in IT. There's network admin, sysadmins, database admins, CISO, those sorts of things. Then you've got, like most big companies, you've got third parties, consultants, specialists, people you call in when you really need help, et cetera. Those are the basic 5 groups who are communicating or trying to in this situation. So it gets complex. See all these crazy different diagrams? 38 screens worth. I just took the first screen. These are all the cute diagrams. These guys, I think they spend more time doing diagrams than they do really communicating about what's going on. So we're going to stop that. We're going to create a very good BS detector in all of you to ask hard questions about what are we going to do and how are we going to do it and how much it is going to cost and when is it going to get done. Those are the 4 most important things. Let's talk about it, okay? What do we have? What do we need? How do we do it? And how much does it cost? If your EA person cannot answer those questions in simple English, fire them, okay? I mean, because that, if your IT department cannot, once they get the response from the architect and the planning, if they can't communicate, what do we have? This is our IT practice right now. Now, we need to get to here. So here's the delta where we need to improve. How are we going to do that? We're going to buy this. We're going to invest in this. We're going to move to the cloud. We're going to, etc. How much does it cost? And when they start mumbling on the price, then you know you're in trouble. Okay, that's Professor Bauer's wisdom in a very crazy world. So keep that in mind. All right, so we're going to identify the actors here, and super important to know who they are. Remember I told you those 5 different groups? All right, you have business actors and you have IT actors, okay? Then you have their roles. Strategic, in other words, they're in the C-suites, or tactical. These are the management folks, the people who are in the trenches actually getting the job done, both in the business side of things and the IT side of things. And so you've got business executives and IT executives. Just what we said before, you got business unit managers and IT project teams, and you got those consultants and third parties there. These are the players, okay? Somewhere, when you sketch this whole thing out, you should be able to put people in some kind of role that resembles this. Then, how do they interact? How do they communicate? That's what's going to determine whether you have it. So, remember those, that requirement. The IT and the business leaders agree on what do we have. That should be easy to snapshot. What do we need? That may be tougher to look to the future and say we need this. How do we do it? That's where experienced IT people can recommend the growth path and the deployment path. How much does it cost? Everything's got to be spelled out, and everyone needs to understand what's going to happen. All right? So, those boundaries complicate communication. Poor communication leads to bad planning. Bad planning means that IT and the business are misaligned. You're going to hear the word alignment a lot this term. Poor business and IT alignment manifests itself in lots of stupid and inefficient and unworkable situations. So that's the root cause. So poor communication, inadequate IT planning, business and management, waste IT, general disappointment, reduced overall business performance, and your competitors are eating your lunch because they are using IT to support the business, not just to do IT. All right. So good communication leads to alignment. All right. So we're using enterprise architecture concepts. We have effective communication between those 5 stakeholder groups. Good IT planning. In other words, and it's not IT's role to judge how well their planning is. It's other stakeholders' role. So you get that, that nirvana of business and IT alignment, and away you go. So keep that in mind. IT and planning and management is a responsibility of the business executives. Beware the company who lets the CIO drive the whole thing. All right. Organizations are decentralized, so you have to deal with them in that way. We're going to shoot for business and IT alignment. Keep all those things in mind. So, enterprise architecture is the solution. It's documents, it's plans, but it's really the kind of foundation that establishes effective communication. So just keep that in mind, okay? All right, good value when it's done right. A lot of words here, but when it's done right, it really helps IT and the business communicate effectively. All right, so jump in. Welcome to week 1. Don't fear. I command you, don't fear. Please take a chance to take the opportunity to introduce yourself. Jump into the week 1 activities. I'm looking forward to interacting with you. I'll explain some of the assignments as we go on. Just want to say welcome to this class and hope you do your best. Looking forward to learning with you. See you then. Bye-bye now.